Thanks so much to Element for sponsoring today's video.
Today we're working on creating some ease in the kitchen. And I know when you're trying to be healthier or just be healthy in general, it can be a little tricky to stay ahead of the game and kind of ahead of yourself, which I find is key. I have to stay one step ahead of myself in order to make sure that I'm staying on the right path and not getting sidetracked by drive-thrus, unhealthy groceries. And so what I like to do is set myself up for a realistic week. So I'm going to show you my version. Hopefully it will inspire you and be kind of like a starting point so you can figure out what things you might want to do to help yourself kind of along throughout the week. And I don't do massive like single meal preps. That works for like 1 to 2 people. Like if you're married or you're single, that'll work. But in a family of 6, it doesn't work. So I have to do things a little bit differently. If I want to make sure I'm staying healthy, I want to make sure the rest of my family is staying healthy too. And so that means being one step ahead so that I don't fall into those traps all the time. So I'm going to show you the real life stuff and exactly how I get it done. So if this video helps you out, make sure you subscribe if you haven't, and give this video a thumbs up. Let me know what you enjoyed about this video in the comment section, or what you have prepped and planned ready to go for the week, so we can all kind of help each other. I'm going to start out by showing you my groceries that I picked up this week, and then we'll get into the rest of the video.
The grocery store I like to shop at around me is called Sprouts, and it's kind of like a Whole Foods but a little bit cheaper, and so I love shopping there. They have tons of good options, but I buy a lot of whole foods, and my food philosophy is basically just eat as much of the whole foods, real foods as you can, and kind of limit the more processed things. So a lot of this stuff you can find at any grocery store for the most part, or places online. Places like Aldi and Walmart, there's such a good selection of different kinds of health food products nowadays, but I try to stick to whole food groups anyway, so you can find that at any grocery store. Things I always like to have in my house are things like organic whole milk. I love these rice and puff tortillas. They're great for breakfast, but you could also make them homemade yourself, and I really enjoy them because they're made with avocado oil. So in this grocery haul, I'm kind of trying to show you why I buy things. So like this peanut butter, for example, I bought because it only has one ingredient, just organic roasted peanuts. Same thing with maple syrup. You can find this anywhere, and I love using this in baked goods and things like my coffee. It's just minimally processed, just like the coconut sugar. It's unrefined. I love having things like organic chicken broth and vegetable broths in my pantry, but then I'll also use the same things, the same ingredient list, and make my own homemade broth, which I'm going to show you later on how I do it in this video. I love having tons of sweet potatoes and onions, garlic. Those are things I pick up nearly every week. I usually pick up a few herbs like parsley or cilantro. And then this week I picked up some potatoes, carrots. I love broccolini because it's super easy to keep in the fridge and quickly just roast up in the oven. And then 1 bell pepper. I love having cabbage for things like cabbage salad just to keep in the fridge. That's kind of my little hack, is to buy heartier greens like kale and cabbage because they last so much longer in the fridge, and it's really easy to make meal preps out of them, or little salads that are already prepped. I always have a little selection of fruit and berries, and because it's that time of year when there's sweets everywhere, I'm loving having healthier alternatives to sweets in my house. This one is one that I like. I also like, I think it's called Skinny Dipped. I think it's from Costco, but theirs is also a fun little peanut butter cup that's just a little bit lighter. These are crackers I love because they have minimal ingredients. So that's something I look at a lot of times, is does it have minimal ingredients? I needed some more chicken and some beef because I just placed an order at ButcherBox, so I picked up just a few things for the week because I know I'm going to want to make some homemade chicken stock and a meal using ground beef later on. I really try to find good quality meat because I'd rather spend money on meat than things like packaged snacks. Ham like this is really nice to have, or Applegate ham, anything like that that you can keep in the fridge that's a more quality cold cut. And then I always have healthy fats like sour cream, yogurt, cottage cheese, which is great because it's full of fat and full of protein. So that's a great thing just to have on hand for snacks. I know a lot of times you guys will ask me what I like to snack on and what my kids like to snack on. And one of the top things for that is yogurt, like these Siggy's yogurt. My kids absolutely love those. Cottage cheese, or just like smoked cheddar cheese like this with some of those crackers. We always love that. I love to snack on things like fat and protein because it just keeps us fuller so much longer than processed snacks that you'll find typically in the pantry. It's helpful for me when I'm thinking about my grocery budget and how I want to spend my money for the week to think more about fridge snacks or even things like fruit just on the counter. That way, I'm not spending all my money on processed snacks to put in the pantry. I do like to have quick and convenient snacks. I keep them pretty minimal, just a few things: nuts, granola bars, or fig bars, things like that I know my kids love. I'll stock a few of those, but I like to focus more on the fridge snacks, the fruit, the yogurts, cottage cheeses, things that are really hearty. They're real whole food and they have tons of fat and protein in them, because that's going to hold us all over. And make sure your kids aren't running back to the pantry 15 times a day, because I know how that goes. So I just really want to walk you through step by step how I actually would prep myself up for a week. This is really what I do. And I'm going to show you things like how I cook my rice, how I make homemade stock, how I freeze that stock so I can have it fresh anytime, and just all these little things that you can do, staple recipes you can keep in your fridge, and just things that I do to create just an easier feeling of going into a new week and setting yourself up to be healthy. The first thing I'm doing is I'm creating a little habit stack for myself. So in the morning when I go to get coffee, I've been drinking electrolytes before that because it helps me feel better and gets my day off to a good start. And I'm putting them in a little glass jar. That way I know I'll reach for that electrolyte before I start drinking my coffee. And that's why today's video is sponsored by Element.
Having a good electrolyte is essential to my health routine. They're essential to just like feeling good and replenishing all my magnesium, potassium, and sodium. Those things are something that our society these days and the general population is so depleted in that it's essential to take an electrolyte supplement. You're not getting those things that you need. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with things like sleepiness and bloating, cravings for salt and sugar that could be easily transformed by taking an electrolyte supplement and hydrating properly. You want to make sure you have electrolytes like potassium, magnesium, and sodium in your water too to fully get that hydration that your body craves so much. You're going to notice a boost in energy, your skin's going to feel better, you're going to just like function better throughout your day. They're little stick packs I keep in my purse at all times because either I want them or my kids want them. And then you guys know my water bottle is always full of an electrolyte. I get so many nutrients and hydration and just different things you can't squeeze in through food. I love being able to drink them. They even have cans of sparkling water. So use my link. You can go to element.com/healthyelizabeth. They're going to give you a free sample pack with any purchase. You can figure out which flavors are for you and start feeling all the benefits that I do. So thanks again to Element for sponsoring today's video.
So back to my routine here, and I'm grabbing my water bottle and I'm putting that next to my electrolytes too. That way everything is just ready to go and I don't even have to think about it in the mornings. I just know I'm going to grab my water, my electrolyte. I'll drink that first, then I'll have my coffee second. Another thing I do every week is feed my sourdough starters so I can make homemade sourdough breads and products because they're just better for your digestion than typical store-bought, but I still like to focus on whole foods as much as I can. So now before I start prepping all my produce for the week and getting that squared away, I'm going to work smarter and have something going on the stove that I can be letting cook while I'm doing other things. So I love having a prepped whole grain in my fridge, either things like brown rice, even white rice is fine. And then today I'm going to do quinoa because I had that. So I'm just rinsing some tricolor quinoa in the sink. And then I like to put that in my pan with a little bit of butter or avocado oil, just some sort of fat so it doesn't stick. And then I love doing a bay leaf just to get some extra flavor in there so my quinoa and brown rice are never bland. So that's kind of like a hack to make those basic foods taste a whole lot better without adding a bunch of calories to it or things that are just unhealthy. And then I'm putting in plenty of salt. And then I love cooking my grains with chicken broth, either homemade or good store-bought broth is just fine. You could even use bone broth because that's going to add a whole lot more protein. I love a good quality store-bought bone broth or chicken broth, but I also love making my own, and moving into fall and winter, I tend to make those things a lot, and I'm actually going to start putting them in the freezer so I can just pop them in at any time. Now I'm going to wash my produce, and I do this really easily. I just take some water and fill up my sink, and I'll add in a splash of apple cider vinegar, and something in the vinegar just helps break down any sort of residue or pesticide that could be hiding on those veggies. So I'm just going to rinse my parsley and put that in a jar with water because that keeps fresh herbs fresher so much longer. Ooh, that was hard to say. And I put that in my fridge and it'll last usually all week. Now I'm just going to take all that produce and I'm just going to let that soak in my sink for about 10 minutes. And then I'll take a little sort of scrub brush or something that has some bristles, and I'll go in on the potatoes or the carrots and the things that are a little bit hardier and just give them a slight little scrub. This gets off all of the dirt and any sort of things that might be lingering on the skin. It just helps them get them really, really clean. So I let them soak first, and then I'll do that and just let them drain. And I love using this drain rack over my sink. It's kind of complicated to use for dishes because there's not any sort of place to hold them. So that's why I've been using the wooden one that I've had forever lately. But then I love using this for fruits and veggies because it's just easy to let them dry over the sink. So I put everything there, let it kind of dry off. And now I'm getting out my Instant Pot and my slow cooker, which I just invested in a green pan, and it may not be necessary, but it is a healthier alternative to the classic crock pot. So I'm trying it out. I'll let you know what I think. So the first thing I'm starting on is my chicken stock. So I have my pasture raised chicken drumsticks. You can use any kind of like inexpensive meat cut here for this. It doesn't need to be fancy. I have some leftover parsley that's been in the fridge, some celery that is not the freshest anymore and was going to go to waste. So this is the perfect use for it. I love using veggie scraps and things maybe from the previous week that have been kept in the fridge and are no longer fresh. That is the perfect thing to put in your stock. So things like carrots and celery, since it's soup season, use those leftover bits that are starting to get a little wilty, pop those in your slow cooker and or Instant Pot and either make veggie stock or throw some meat bones and stuff in there and make a bone broth. But I love using parsley and whole peppercorns, a little bit of onion and garlic, and you can play around with this. It is not a perfect recipe. You can just kind of play with it because it's so easy to make your own homemade stocks. So I'm just going to put in a bunch of garlic. That gives it extra health benefits. And then I add a splash of apple cider vinegar and then a whole bunch of water. I think I ended up using about maybe 2.5 quarts of fresh filtered water. And I'm just going to pour that into my Instant Pot. And you can either pressure cook this or you can let it slow cook 24 hours. So if you're busy today like I am, you can let this cook low and slow all night long and handle it tomorrow. So that's what I'm doing today. And I'll show you how I wrap it up and get it in the freezer and in the fridge for the week. Now, I love keeping things like fresh fruit on my counter because that's the first thing my kids are going to reach for. They're not going to run to the pantry. They're going to see that beautiful bowl of fresh fruit on the countertop, and so will I. So that's kind of a little hack, is put things where you can see them. You don't want to put the vegetables in the back of the fridge where you're going to forget about them. Put them close to your eye level and put them right in the front so you don't forget they're there. One of the most important things I personally do for myself and for my whole family is, instead of just putting all of my weekly groceries in the fridge, before I even kind of forget about it for the week, I like to go ahead and make something. So one of my favorite things to do, especially this time in the fall and the winter, is to get a soup going, because I know if I get a soup in the fridge for the week, we can have that as a snack, we can have that as lunch, we can have it on the side of dinner if I need something quick, or just whatever. And it's so healthy. This is just a pure vegetable soup. It's a lentil soup, so it's just a whole bunch of veggies cooked down with some broth, and you can't go wrong. It is a delicious recipe, even though it sounds so simple and plain. It has such good flavor, and it's easy just to get this going every single week, even in the Instant Pot or in the slow cooker, and just let it cook low and slow, and all those vegetables are going to be super easy to digest. It's going to be full of fiber, and it's incredibly frugal and inexpensive to make. So if you're looking for a veggie soup or something that is just inexpensive, make this lentil and sweet potato soup. It's on my website and I truly love it. It is my favorite lentil soup ever. It tastes amazing. And my kids will eat this too. Even my toddler, she absolutely loves this soup. And then you could pair it with a little bit of bone broth if you want to add some protein in there instead of chicken stock. Just do a little bit of bone broth, or just veggie broth if you want to keep it plant-based or plant forward. So I'm going to add in lentils and potatoes. I do poultry seasoning for the perfect blend of spices, and just a whole bunch of veggies, sweet potatoes, carrots. You could even sub the sweet potatoes for butternut squash this time of year, and a whole bunch of salt. And then I just cover that with a little bit of vegetable broth or chicken broth, and then a splash of sherry wine gives this soup the most amazing lentil soup flavor. So just load that full of veggies, let it cook, and then I have this in my fridge ready to go for the rest of the week, and I don't even have to think about an easy lunch. I'm going to share with you a few more recipes, but I'm also going to do a tiny little ingredient prep. And we love having things like ham for breakfast, especially with eggs, just to add something, some different flavor and some more protein. So I'm taking some of this ham and I'm actually cubing it up into little bits that we can put inside an omelet or on an English muffin with some cheese. And it just makes it really easy. That way you can have kind of like your own omelet or scrambled egg bar. This was actually my husband's idea and I thought it was so smart. So I'm using some chopped up ham and then just some red bell pepper, and you could play around with this. You could do chopped up spinach or chopped up mushrooms. Anything that you could just quickly throw into scrambled eggs or an omelet is going to be so great to have on hand, because I know if you're like me, the mornings are busy, whether you're working or you have kids or you work from home. I feel like everybody's mornings can just get really hectic. So having things that you don't have to think about and they're already prepped and in the fridge, you can just throw them in the pan, saute for a couple minutes and crack an egg over the top, and you have an incredibly healthy breakfast ready to go. Plenty of protein, fat, and fiber, which is what I really look for. And then if you want some carbs, just throw a toasted English muffin or some sourdough on the side and you're ready to go. Now, instead of throwing the kale in the fridge and forgetting about it, I'm taking it off the stem and I'm chopping it up, and I'm going to use half of it for a recipe right here and now so it can be in the fridge ready to go. And I'm also taking a little bit and throwing it in my soup because it was ready to go, and so I can just add in a few more veggies and sneak them in there. Next, I'm taking the rest of this dinosaur kale and I'm putting it in a bowl because I'm going to make a quinoa and kale salad. That way I have some of the kale used up, and then I have some of my quinoa that I cooked used up, and the rest I'll just put in the fridge. And I have a recipe for that on my website. Just look up kale and quinoa salad. And now I'm making another favorite of mine, which is my cabbage salad. And this is kind of like my substitute for sauerkraut because we don't love that as much. We love just like a simple kale coleslaw salad, but we're making it super gut friendly. So we're taking this raw cabbage, and you can grate it up either on a box grater, a food processor, or just use your knife and slice it as thinly as you can. And I put that in a bowl and make a salad with a little bit of sliced onion, and then lots of oregano, a little sprinkle of paprika, and then apple cider vinegar, olive oil or avocado oil, either one, and lots of salt and pepper. And I mix that together and massage it with my hand. You can add in a little bit of honey or maple syrup too if you need a little bit of sweetness, but just mix that all together and it makes the most delicious cabbage salad. So it's kind of like a sauerkraut. There's so much fiber in here and it just tastes delicious. And it holds up so well in the fridge, and you can have a whole side of it for dinner versus something like sauerkraut you need to eat a little bit less of, because sometimes you can have too many probiotics at once and it can leave your gut kind of hurting and leave you a little bit bloated. So I think this is a really good alternative, and you still have those gut benefits because of the raw apple cider vinegar. So I'm having that in the fridge prepped for the week almost every week because it's just so easy to do, super inexpensive, and really great for you. So now my quinoa is done. I just gave that a fluff, and I'm going to let that cool all the way before I put it in the salad and before I put it in the fridge. So I'm taking my quinoa and kale salad and I'm doing a different variation this week, and I made like a Thai salad out of it, like a Thai chicken salad, but there's no chicken. I can always put that on the side later, but I had peanuts in it and kale and quinoa, and I just made it really taste like a Thai dish, and it was delicious. So that's a fun little salad you can have prepped in the fridge, and it's kind of like at the grocery store. I know places like Whole Foods have like their hot bar where you can get a bunch of different things. And I like to think of my fridge that way. That way I don't just have a fridge full of groceries that I always have to be doing something with. I always have food prepped in it and stuff that my whole family can eat. Now the next day I took my stock and I drained it through a colander into a bowl, and then half of it I'm putting in the fridge and the other half I'm putting into these silicone ice cube molds or trays, and that way I can freeze big cubes of it and then pop them into a freezer bag. And anytime I'm making rice or soup, I can just pop a few in and I have broth ready to go. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really hope this video helps you make some positive changes in your life. Don't forget to check out Element in the description down below. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this, and don't forget you can get some of these recipes over on my website. I'll have it linked down below, and I'll see you in the next video.